Welcome everybody to Financial Analysis 101, 201, and 301. You will be here for the next 3 hours. And no, just kidding. Okay. I figured you guys would get this. Yeah, this is where everyone's eyes like roll up into their head. No, we're going to be talking today about the intersection of finance and HR. So these are two critical functions for your company that work together both strategically and tactfully to help you grow your business. So rather than just focusing on finance alone and taking you guys through a bunch of, here's how we budget, here's how we forecast, here's what we can do for you, we're going to talk about 10 trends that we're seeing in clients today. The role of AI, that's kind of coming in very much focused this year. We're talking about organizational build. How do you grow your organization, and when and how do you bring in HR and finance into your organization? We're talking about this concept of the leadership triad and the role that HR and finance can play in how you lead your company. We're also going to talk about conversations that you may be having where it's really important to make sure that HR and finance are sitting in the room with you when you're having those decisions. And then finally, we'll end up with CFO services, which is where I can come in and perhaps help you in your organization. So 10 future trends. This is what we're seeing right now. So historically, we've seen a lot of work on digital transformation. This is RPA is robotic process automation. So as Chuck alluded to, there's a lot of tactical, repetitive work in finance and accounting. And so there's a lot of effort over the last 10 years in automating those processes to get the labor out of that back office function. AI is now coming in to replace those automated processes so that way now you're making decisions. And the AI can help the business make a decision so that way it's not just fully automating the process, but actually having the process roll through and replacing what somebody would do and make a decision. Does this go in this bucket or that bucket? Take this piece of information and go here or there. And what happens next, and workflows and stuff like that. And so this is where a lot of work is currently happening. Another trend is increased digital skill set demand. So CFOs used to be just spreadsheets and PowerPoint. Now we're learning languages like Python and Visual Basic. And we're actually programming tools behind the scenes to help with the robotic process automation and integrations with APIs, how to do a JSON integration. So now we're starting to cross over to IT a little bit. Decentralized performance data. So Chuck mentioned KPIs in his talk. So one of the things that's happening is each area of the organization, whether it's sales, marketing, HR, operations, has KPIs, leading and lagging performance indicators. And this information is spread all over the organization, and it's finance's job now to help collect that information and communicate it back out so you can actually performance manage and organize your company and where you want to invest and what activity, and monitor the activities that are leading to the financial results that you're getting. Scalable partnership models. So it's not enough that HR and finance are in the ivory tower. We actually have to be partnered through the organization because you have other departments that need support from finance and HR. And so it's these partnership models of you're in the sales department, here's your finance person that you're going to interface with in the sales department. You're in the marketing department. Let's give you a finance resource to support your decisions that you're making. AI and ML integration. So some of the stuff that's happening there is around, again, as we replace these tools, these automated robotic processes with AI, how do we integrate that into the software packages? We're talking about the ERP system, could be the HR system, it could be the financial planning system. Where does AI plug in? More trends. AI internal controls. So one of the big concepts in accounting and finance is internal controls over the business. How does the business monitor what it's doing and making sure that it's not having issues around errors, fraud, mistakes? AIs are a problem. They have behavior just like people. But who monitors the AI and its behavior and what it's doing in your organization? So now we have to bring in controls and monitoring systems that monitor the AI's behavior, because it's basically doing what a person used to do, and behaviors can be good, they can be desired, or they can be bad and undesired. And so how do we monitor that and manage that? Strategizing business resilience. So your business does not operate in a vacuum. You have a larger economy, a larger world around you. And you have things like inflation, supply chain issues, the political environment that we're in right now, where we have companies that are being politicized one way or the other, and I can't do business with you because you don't believe in what I do. Or it's a different world now, and how do we strengthen the business so it can survive the rockiness that we're seeing in the economy and in the world today? Remote working office footprint. So at the end of the pandemic, there was a very large effort to bring employees back to the office. How many people think that that succeeded? No. How many people are like back in the office, like full time? Hybrid? A lot of people doing hybrid, sometimes in the office, sometimes not in the office. How many people are doing fully remote? Were you fully remote before the pandemic? Yes. So we have a situation where companies have invested in real estate, whether that's through leases or actual buildings and land. They have an office footprint. And what are they doing with this? What they need today is not what they had. It doesn't match. When you have an office parking lot and half the parking lot is empty, whereas 3 years ago it'd be full. And then you look in your office and you have these cube farms, and there's 2 people in the cube farm. And you have offices that people never show up to. And so how do we transform your real estate portfolio, your office footprint? Obviously industrial warehouse is a different situation, but how do we transform that for your business? Foreign actors: North Korea, China, Russia. They're not just going after the big companies. They're going after the small, little businesses. Cybersecurity is a thing. If you're not focused on it, it's just a matter of time. Your number's coming. They're out there, and they're putting stuff out there, and it could come through a piece of software that you have, and you get a patch update, and that patch update is compromised. And it's happening now. It's a cost of doing business, and you just have to build it into your budget to deal with this. Rebalancing of ESG. So you have sustainability, environmental, social, governance. There was a big trend over the last 4 or 5 years about triple bottom line. We're not just about your profits, but it's how you work within the larger social framework of society, and what's your company's values, and how sustainable is your business. The pendulum is now swinging back the other way. We're in a high inflationary environment. Money is not cheap. It costs money now to have money. And so businesses now are refocusing on their cash flow, refocusing on their bottom line, and they're thinking about what it is costing them to be socially aware and socially conscious. There's a cost to this. And so now you're seeing, go woke, go broke. We're seeing that now, where companies now have gone, the pendulum's gone this way, and now it's starting to come back. because ultimately the bills still need to get paid. So what's the role in finance, the role of AI in finance and accounting? So first, replacement. AI is now replacing robotic process automation. A lot of the labor has already come out, and now there's an opportunity to take that to another level. Augmentation. We're seeing more AI in the finance and accounting software that we're using every day. So there's still a person there doing the work, but there's AI embedded in the software helping them work faster, better. You all use Microsoft Office and you had Clippy. Clippy's smarter now. Limitations. This is something that a lot of people don't think about. We talked about AI has behavior. So now the issue is the AI, we can provide it a learning set that gives it education. We can educate that AI. But the training sets for finance and accounting are typically not publicly available. And so unless you're in a really big company with a ton of data to train the AI on, you can educate that AI. But how do you give the AI 20 years of experience? And so that leads to the next point, the struggles that AI have around reliability. How reliable is your AI? How often does it make a mistake? How often does it do something wrong? AIs now have behavior. Error correction versus a fatal mistake. So you all have new cars, some of us have new cars, and they have this driving assistance in the car, and it's helping you drive. It's not as good as you are when you're paying attention. And then when the AI makes a mistake and it goes to error correct, does it crash the car? You have a lot more experience than the AI. You can recover from a mistake. Does the AI make enough mistakes to understand how to recover from a mistake and not have a fatal result? So there's a lot of trust building happening that has to happen between the AIs and the people. And so at the end of the day, the AI acts like it's trustworthy, but is it? So there's some more limitations along those struggles. Outsourcing. So now we have, you have offshoring, you have outsourcing, and now you have this AI. How do you want to deploy how do you want to consume your labor? Because now you have multiple ways to get stuff done. So that's kind of like the top level view. Now let's go a layer deeper. So as you're building out an organization, think of this as like an upside down org chart. So on the bottom level, you have your leadership layer. In the middle, you have your management layer. And up top, you have your staff. And so when you're building out your brand new company, slot number one, it's just you, the CEO, the owner. And this isn't how it always works, but typically the next thing you'll bring in is production. That's staff people to help you produce whatever it is you're selling, good or service, and get that done. Then comes in sales. That's your third. You'll hire some salespeople to help you sell what you're producing. At this point is probably now your fourth and fifth hires, or where you're going to fill in that accounting and finance. The HR and finance slots. Notice they're in the leadership roles. These are leadership positions within your organization. Yes, you can tactically deploy them as staff, but that's not really what they're able to do for you. What they can do is help you lead your organization. And think about, again, at this stage, can you afford the full-time hire? Most likely, when you're at this nascent stage where you're, 10, 15 people, you're not ready for full-time HR and finance. You're going to go with a fractional resource like Chuck or myself. Once you have that finance and HR leadership in with the CEO, you now have this leadership triad. So originally, when you started your business, you were responsible for everything. You had to make all the HR decisions, you had to make all the finance decisions, you had to make all the business decisions. Now you have 3 people in the room to help yourself and 2 others to help you lead your business. So that way you've got the owner, who's watching the operations and the sales and the product. You've got HR, they're watching the people. And you got finance, they're watching the money. And when you bring in these specialists that can help you watch the people and watch the money, it allows you as the business owner now to focus on what you do best, servicing your customer. Once that leadership structure is in place, you're now poised for further growth. You have enhanced leadership capabilities, you can add more staff. So here comes quality assurance and safety, customer success, and now you can bring in that management layer of you have an ops manager or maybe a sales manager. But with the more complexity in the business, bring in HR and finance first so you can build the structure better for yourself and poise yourself for further growth. So where does HR and finance need to be in the room with you? Talking about workforce planning and budgeting. People cost money and you have to plan how you want to do it. 3 important strategies that you want to bring in is how do you invest your time, how do you invest your money, how do you invest your resources? Are you going to focus on acquiring that talent versus retaining the talent versus developing the talent? When you go back to this thing, right, where's your managers coming from? Where are your leaders coming from in your organization? Are you acquiring them, or you're taking the staff in your organization and promoting them through the organization? So that's your development strategy. And some companies, they only focus on acquisition. Acquire, 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 out, 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 out. And that's their model. Other companies, they really focus on acquisition in terms of how do we filter out people and really just focus on the folks we want. And once we're in here, then we're going to develop them, grow them, retain them. Part of this is your AI investment strategy. So this is another piece. Where does that come in to the room? Where does that come into the conversation? We already talked about our earlier compensation and benefits. This is both an HR and a finance conversation. Compliance and risk management, accounting, finance, HR, there are compliance aspects to this that as the business gets bigger, it becomes more difficult to do. And so make sure HR and finance is in the room for those conversations. Finally, performance management and metrics. We want to make sure that leading and lagging indicators across your organization tie in. You want finance and HR in the room so that way they're participating in that. This is what we would see typical of a business. Now, not everybody's typical. But, you know, in terms of thinking about how do you grow your business, yeah, this is what a lot of businesses follow as an order of hire. Well, I mean, if you think about it, right, what did offshoring do, right? So the question was, you know, how long can a business owner avoid AI? And the question, you know, offshoring reduced the cost of labor because now your onshore labor is typically more expensive than your offshore labor. So now that puts pressure on your labor costs. So if your competitor is more AI driven and their cost is now software, and they've taken a lot of the labor out of their business, what does that do to your pricing model when your competitor costs half as much as you do? And so, you know, is that what we teach? No, I like to teach differential pricing. So, you know, have a conversation with the customer and have breakage so that way customers who can pay more, customers who can pay less, and you can have the ability then to more maximize your revenue and profitability that way. That's what I teach. It's not a race to the bottom. That just ends up eating away at all your margin. But, you know, AI is going to create margin compression when, you know, robo-advisors show up. Yeah. And, you know, but again, if you think about the robo-advisors, think about the limitations. Yeah. How many robo-advisors have been through a 30-year cycle of the market and understand that what was true yesterday is not true today, because now you're in an inflationary environment, and we haven't had an inflationary environment since this year, so we have to go back to these old playbooks. Well, the AI doesn't have those playbooks. It hasn't been trained on those playbooks. So, there's still a place for people. It's just understand in certain places it's going to replace, and in other places it's going to augment, ultimately reduce the labor cost.
It's going to make you more efficient.
Yeah. So the question is who's managing the AI in the organization, and who's listening to the AI for when it develops a new idea? There's probably going to be a new role coming into companies in terms of a AI manager, an AI officer, an AI integrator. So just like you have a CIO or an IT manager, an IT director, or an HR manager, at some point in organizations, there's going to be a role for an AI manager whose job is to watch the behavior of the AI, train the AI, because none of us really understand, how do you build a large language model? How do you do machine learning? Does anyone know how to train a machine? Those are specialties. And then understanding that you're now going to have issues with biases, because there are biases in the training set that you're giving the AI. The AI is going to develop biases. You're going to have bad behavior. How do you teach the AI and train the AI along the direction that you want it to go in? That's going to be a special skill. That's going to be a new role in the companies. Thank you.
Great job.